It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Zach Allmand, DDS. He graduated from Indiana University Dental School in 2005. Post-graduation, he served our country in the United States Air Force for 5 years, deploying to Afghanistan in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. After fulfilling his service to our country, he purchased a dental practice where he quickly learned that there was much more to running a successful practice than merely being a good clinician. His business focus turned to overhead reduction to control costs without sacrificing clinical excellence. He quickly learned that there were many aspects of the business where doctors were being taken advantage of, one of the most evident being credit card processing. As he researched the true cost of merchant services, he realized that it could be done better with more transparency, security, and fair treatment for all offices, no matter their volume. Dr. Allmand formed Apex Payment Solutions to educate and assist his colleagues, helping them to control their costs and giving them the reassurance that they were getting a fair pricing while bringing secure technology that reduces the risk of credit card processing for healthcare goals. His goals is to remove these stresses so healthcare professionals can return their focus to what is truly important, caring for their patients. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for serving our country for 5 years.
You're very welcome, Howard. It was an honor, and thank you for having me on the podcast.
My gosh, they say what, only 1% of Americans serve?
Yeah, I believe that's pretty accurate. It is, yeah.
1% serve and 99% benefit from your service. So thank you so much for that. So I got to tell you, how do you go from the Air Force to a Apex Payment Solutions? Is that one of the takeaways you took away from the Air Force?
No, not at all. It's actually tripping through business after the Air Force is what led to this. But it's been a long road, learning things definitely with each opportunity along the way. I really appreciated my time in the Air Force. I learned some great clinical dentistry from some excellent clinicians. I had some great mentors, as well as through dental school. But one of the things that my military service didn't appreciate or didn't prepare me for was to run a business, because when we're in the military, we get the privilege of practicing in what we called the ivory tower. If we saw the work that needed to be done, we did it for the patient, and we had a captive audience. And so it was a really great environment to learn and to just grow clinically. But it really didn't prepare me at all for the business aspects of dentistry. And so I kind of trial and error, lots of errors, learned my way through that, and kind of saw an opportunity to not only benefit my practice, but also help my colleagues kind of learn something that they might not be exposed to.
I called you to be on the show. You didn't call me. And you had so many postings on Dental Town. One was a thread called Switch Merchant Services, Feel Like an Idiot. Why? How many dentists do you think have? There's 211,000 Americans with licensed dentists. 150,000 are general dentists, 32 hours a week or more. 30,000 specialists, 32 hours a week or more. What percent of them actually do you think understand their credit card, merchant fees, what's going on in their office? How many of them do you think? I mean, this guy obviously he switched to you. And he feels like an idiot. I mean, you actually made him feel bad by letting him realize, shame on you, Zach. You made one of my homies feel horrible because he had no idea how he was getting ripped off. How many dentists, what percent of the dentists you think are getting ripped off?
I would say that approximately 10% of dentists out there truly have a grasp on this aspect of the business side of things. The percentage of people getting ripped off, I would say, is very small, but the percentage of individuals that could have a better control over this cost is very high. I would say it's close to probably 80% of dental practices out there are leaving money on the table with their merchant services.
Now, you talked about being in the Air Force for 5 years. You got to remember, old guys like me read books. So the people listening to this podcast, a quarter of them are still in dental school, and the rest are all under 30, which, by the way, you look like you're about 25. How old are you?
I turned 40 in January, Howard.
How come you still look like you're 29?
I would love to say that it's clean living, but it's, my kids keep me young. My family keeps me young. I try to stay very active, and Just good genetics. I gotta thank mom up there. So
Thank you. Thank you, Mom. So first of all, I'm afraid that everybody in dental school has never even thought about credit card merchant. Now they all go whip out their Visa card and use it. But let's start basic. What is credit card merchant? What does that even mean? And when you say only 10% of dentists understand it, probably only 1% of dental students. So start from elementary. What is credit card merchanting services?
So you have your major credit cards, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, for the most part. And so everybody has one of those. Every business accepts those. Merchant services is the business of facilitating and securing the transaction. So if you go into, let's just say you go into your coffee shop, your Starbucks, and you order a latte, the credit card machine that you swipe your card on or tap your card or tap your phone, that's not provided by the actual credit card company. That's provided by a third-party company that is a go-between between the merchant, which is Starbucks in this case, and the credit card companies, which are Visa, MasterCard, Discover. Now, the major credit card companies don't actually sell their rate. They go to other companies. There's the biggest one out there is First Data, and they provide over 40% of the global transactions. And what they are is kind of a clearinghouse for all the credit card companies, because the merchant services company provides the next day funding of the cards, basically gets you your money faster than the credit card company could. And so they provide the security of that transaction and the verification of the funds on the card, verifying that it is an active real card. And then that way you get your next day funding from the merchant services company. And then we kind of put ourselves on the line on the day-to-day operations. And then the credit card companies provide the funding on a monthly basis. So we're in the business of giving you a secure transaction, facilitating a quick transaction, and getting your funds more quickly than the credit card companies would, even if they ever even could.
Are you working with, so how do you do it? Do you work with First Data, or did you pick a bank like Chase or Wells Fargo, or how did you do this?
So we actually operate on the same level as the major banks like Bank of America, Fifth Third, PNC. All of those companies and us are independent sales organizations of First Data. So First Data kind of farms out their merchant services to get the word out and to get new clients. So we provide the same level of service, same level of security as the major banks do, but we have the flexibility to do it more efficiently and at a better rate, because we have, we're not the giant corporations that kind of get bogged down with the procedures that they have and the kind of set sales standards they have. We kind of operate in a more flexible manner in the space of dentistry. Is what I've chosen to do so, because it's a very low risk atmosphere, low risk environment. Most of the time, people that are having these procedures done and are swiping their credit cards, it's easy to verify that they were there, that they were the ones receiving the treatment. So it's easy to offer a lower rate than for, say,
palm reading,
an online store. So or palm reading, sure, but so yeah, we operate on the same level. We are an independent sales organization of First Data, and we basically buy our rate from them and then provide it to dentists.
So you completely focus just on dentistry?
That's the space that I'm most comfortable in. It's easy to relate to my colleagues in this space, to talk to them about our platform and how it's beneficial in a dental office. We do like to focus. We are focused on healthcare offices just because that's our mission statement, to help healthcare providers provide. Yeah, we just eliminate this hurdle from their lives, right? We take this stress away from them, so that way they can focus their energies on continuing education or other aspects of the practice. I just really feel a calling to kind of help my colleagues just reduce that stress by providing a fair rate, so they don't have to think about it on a daily or monthly basis.
So when you talk about credit cards, there's Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover Card. If you go to a bar and you have a Samsung and a Discover card, you're never going to date the rest of your life. You have to have an iPhone and an American Express Gold, or you're not even going to get it on the dance floor. But one thing I've noticed, it seems like the United States is mostly Visa, yet when you go to all the other continents, it's mostly MasterCard. Is that what you have noticed?
It is. It's close to 50-50 in the dental practices, really, from what we've seen. American Express definitely has a lower market share because they have a higher fee for their cards. There's a lot of dental offices that don't even accept American Express because their merchant services provider, it's batched out as a different batch, and it's confusing, and they don't have next day funding, so they just elect not to take it. But what we have found is that the larger ticket transactions are usually run on an American Express. So it's because the individuals with the discretionary income to do elective dental work want to put it on a higher rewards card or have access to a Platinum, Delta SkyMiles, American Express, or probably you have the Centurion card and you can just put it down there and do a $40,000 full mouth reconstruction.
Shoot, dude, I got divorced, so I can't even get a car. I had to walk to work. I'm thinking about maybe saving up for a mule or a goat. But, on American Express, it reminds me of Facebook. I mean, these dentists have all these Facebook pages for their dental office, and they don't have a LinkedIn page. It's like, dude, everyone at LinkedIn has a job and has insurance and is an engineer, or, they're all high-end. When I get a patient from LinkedIn, they just want to know, well, you're the doctor. What would you do if this was on you or your mom? And when you get someone from Facebook, they're like, what's the cheapest thing we can do, or pull the one that's hurt? LinkedIn is a whole nother level, and it's the same what you just said with American Express. Someone who has an American Express card is not going to pull their tooth and get a flipper. The person with the American Express card is going to basically, just like whenever I talk to my doctors, my only question is, well, what would you do if you were me? And focusing on Facebook over LinkedIn just shows that you do not get social media. But were you saying that Visa and MasterCard were 50-50 in the United States?
In a dental setting, I would say maybe 65-35, 60-40, but the difference is not that drastic.
Wow. Because you can literally go to Brazil and places like that where, every billboard, everybody's using MasterCard. And I see the same thing in Cambodia, Malaysia. It just seems like it's only MasterCard in the developing world. And you don't get into Visa and American Express until you get into about the 20 most developed countries. So Discover Card, that's still a thing. I'm surprised that's still a thing.
It's a very small percentage, but it is still a thing.
And when Sears goes bankrupt, Sears is dead. They just don't know it yet. They're on life support. When Sears goes under, will Discover Card go under, or do you think they'll sell that asset off somewhere?
I think they'll sell that asset off. There's still a market for it, but it is small. It's smaller. We don't deal that much with Discover Card, but the rewards levels are pretty good, and the cost of the card is not that high either. So it's more comparable to the Visa and the MasterCard.
So they always say, on Gecko, 15 minutes can save you 15% of your insurance. So now they're listening to you right now. So the next 15 minutes, tell them how they can save 15% on their merchant fees. What is a good acceptable merchant fee? What are you seeing in the marketplace? What could you do better for them?
So let's start with what are we seeing in the marketplace. The average rates in the marketplace are somewhere between 2.3 and 3.2. Okay, and that's what when we're talking that, we're talking what's called effective rate. And that's really all you need to be concerned with at the end of the day as a business owner. For $10,000 of treatment per month, what am I paying in merchant services fees or credit card fees? Because the truth of the matter is there's a lot of different layers to it, because you're paying your Visa network fee, your MasterCard network fee, your kilobyte, there's all these different fees that the major card companies charge and trickle down to the merchant. Really, the only thing that we can control as a merchant services company is the basis point or the rate that we charge to facilitate the services. So rates, like I said, are anywhere from 2.3 to 3.0, and that depends somewhat. It will fluctuate based off of what type of card you accept most that month. Like if you have a full mouth reconstruction that somebody throws $40,000 down on an American Express, that interchange rate is going to be higher, and the interchange rate is what the credit card company itself charges you. So that's a controlled expense. We can't do anything about that. But what our goal should be for healthcare offices really should be an effective rate of around 2 to 2.2%. Again, that fluctuates slightly based off of whether you're taking a lot of debit cards or high expense cards, but there's no reason that a dental office should be paying any higher than that. The reason most offices are paying higher than that is because statements are confusing. Some merchant services companies will take that confusion and use it to their benefit to throw in hidden fees, to increase rates without notifying the client. And just when you look at the statements, most offices get to about the second page and then they just say, oh, I don't even know what I'm looking at here. We'll just pay the bill. It's automatically debited from my account. It's done. It's just the cost of doing business. And to a certain extent, that's true, but there's always ways to save money. And that's kind of one of my passions in dentistry, but also within this space is education. Showing offices how to read their statements. What can you look at? What are expenses that you can control or negotiate? And where can we save you money? And the whole way that I started this, or the whole way this came about, like your original question, when I went to purchase my practice, I purchased it with a partner, and we had a great relationship with our bank lender. He's a really good guy, gave us a great rate on the practice loan, and when we were closing, he's like, okay, you guys are going to need merchant services. Okay, that makes sense. He's like, just use my guy. He's great. He'll give you a great rate because you got your loan through our bank. And so we went to him, and he gave us a quote, and I literally was on a Dental Town post looking at merchant services, and somebody had recommended another company. So I was like, it never hurts to get a competing quote. And the two quotes were like miles apart. I'm like, this is crazy. How can this be? So then I got a third quote, and it was somewhere in between the other two. But every time when I went to get a quote, the sales rep would say, well, let me see your most recent statements, and then we'll do a cost savings comparison. It's like, okay, I've kind of figured this game out and then I took that quote to somebody else, and then they beat the other guy by just a little bit. Took that one to somebody else, they beat it by just a little bit. And so fortunately for me, I have a friend, a friendship that I developed a relationship with in the Air Force, and he got out of commercial banking and started his own merchant services company. And so I had that resource. He was in the commercial space looking at restaurants, bars, service industry. And I went to him and I said, hey, I know you don't do dental offices, you're focusing on the restaurant space, but can you just help me decipher this, understand this, let me know if I'm getting a good rate? And he looked at it and he's like, dude, you're getting screwed. He's like, this fee's unnecessary, this rate's high. And he's like, I'll tell you what, let's run my merchant services through your office to see if there's any reason why we can't do this in a dental space. And so we did that for about a year and realized that, lo and behold, credit card processing is credit card processing. It doesn't matter who you are. There's different areas of risk where we can minimize things. But what we decided to do is decided to use the platform that he had already created, the relationship with First Data that he had, and then tailor it to a dental office, because I had the expertise in the dental field and in kind of the mindset of a dentist to take a look at payments from the dental perspective. And we did some research and kind of partnered with another company that provides an online platform that basically eases the way the dental offices can get payments. I said I wanted my website to be able to take online payments. Boom, this platform does it. I wanted to be able to run automated monthly payment plans in my office with no fees. Boom, we can do it. We have an online platform where I can actually go in and reconcile my end of day reports, less paper. I have the ultimate control over who can run refunds. I can give different authorizations and basically just have this platform that operates beautifully within the dental space. and allows me to the freedom treatment plan more freely, and we remove hurdles from patients when accepting payments. They say, "Oh, I don't want to pay it all up front." Okay, we can do a 6-month payment plan in office, no fees. Boom, great. Oh, well, I don't have my credit card right now. Well, you can go home and you can pay online at 10 p.m. tonight if you want to. Boom, good. And so it's all about reducing hurdles, increasing the number of ways that we can accept payments so that we have to chase after those payments less.
So does the practice management system, a lot of these kids are working as an associate somewhere, they want to have their own office. Do you think any of the practice management systems work better with your software?
So currently, no, because we are a standalone processing company. We don't have direct integration with any of the major practice management systems. And there's a couple of reasons why that. It's a closed system. They only have partnerships with a limited number of companies. But the main reason is my whole mission with this company is to keep our costs low so we can provide savings to our clients. If we have the direct integration piece, in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases, we would have to pay them a fee or pay them a percentage of each of the transaction, which would increase our costs, which would increase the costs that we would have to offset or pass on to the dental offices. And really, with the functionality and the tools that we have with the online platform, our system is easier to use, and it takes 2 seconds more to post the payment in the patient ledger. But with we have a lot of offices that was an initial concern. Do you have direct integration with Open Dental? Do you have direct integration with EagleSoft? We don't, but what we have is direct communication with the credit card companies. What that means is that our transactions process more quickly, and the time that's saved with the processing of the transaction, your front office staff can already be inputting the payment into the ledger, and at the end of the day, the process takes less time, and we provide it at a much lower rate. It's a win for the office.
Well, I got out of school probably almost, I guess I got out of school when you were 8 years old. Back in the day, it was very hard to embezzle. I mean, you were writing paper checks. You had a pegboard system. It was a very physical deal. I only caught one time a check that was missing, never came in, and I'd get my checks back. And so finally I called my bank, and they said, "Well, what number is it?" And they said, "Yeah, that cleared." And I didn't write a check, and I went over to Chase Bank, and this was back in '87 or '88, and she showed me a picture. They had a black and white picture of my dental assistant cashing a check for $1,200. I brought the picture back and showed it to her, and she just burst out bawling and ran out the door, and that was the end of it. I just let it go. But now, with the digital world, I'm hearing a lot of people are embezzling with their credit card. The dentist has no idea. I mean, there's so many digital ways to embezzle. So what are your thoughts about what you're doing and the dental office? First of all, how do you embezzle? I want to learn how to embezzle for myself. So what are you seeing any embezzlement in dental offices?
Absolutely. And at the risk of providing more information to dental office staff than they need about how to embezzle, I'll share a story with you. We had a new client last year, 2018, that after about 3 months of processing with us, the owner gave me a call, and he said, "Hey, I think there's something wrong with your system, because when I search for refunds, I get the same refund the same day of the month to the same credit card, and I don't know where it's coming from." And so we were able to, through the online platform, track those numbers, call the credit card company, see who the card is. And what we found out was that it was his front office staff that was running a refund to her debit card once a month when she would come in to run their payment plans. This was before switching to us. And so I said, "Hey, well, here's the numbers," and I don't hear from him for about a week. And then he calls me back. He says, "This has been going on for 3 years. Never would have caught it unless we had switched to you. And it's because we have the online platform where the doctor has the ultimate control over One, you can assign usernames to who can run transactions. Two, you have the credit card numbers, the amounts, like all the information is at your fingertips. And he said he had gone back to his previous merchant services provider and had them, it took him a week to get all of his monthly statements, had them printed and faxed to him, and he had to go through each line and look for each refund, but he was able to trace it back for 3 years. With us, it took 5 seconds because you can sort all the data by transaction type. You can look at chargebacks. You can look at refunds. I mean, it's just so much more security for the owner or the office manager to allow for oversight of what's going on in the practice. The other nice thing about our platform is you can link multiple locations. So we have a lot of multi-practice groups where they'll have either an accountant that's running all the books or a finance person. They can actually, with one login, access all locations and monitor the transactions in real time. So they can see exactly what's going on. The limit's 50 offices with one login right now. But you can actually see the transactions. You can run your end-of-day reports without being on location, without printing off more paper. It just allows for a more advanced, more modern dental office, paperless. It just allows us to be more clean and organized. We can download all your transactions directly into QuickBooks for your accountant. I mean, it's as simplified as we can make it.
Yeah, the QuickBooks thing makes me sad. I mean, Quicken, which owns QuickBooks Pro, I mean that's for an individual, and these dentists are running their business from it. I mean, we're on Peachtree, which I think is owned by Sage. Microsoft bought Great Plains, so Microsoft GP, but it's just frightening how dentists are running their dental offices on a personal Quicken or QuickBooks Pro. I mean, I guess it's Pro if you have no idea what accounting means. And when I talk to dental office consultants, they say when they go into a dental office, 50% of the time, half the time, they catch embezzling. And you have very low overhead. I can't believe how low is your dental office overhead?
How low is my dental office overhead? We hover between 37 and 42%.
Okay, well, the average is 65% overhead, and the easiest dollar earned is $1 in expenses saved. The second easiest dollar earned is $1 in taxes delayed, and the hardest damn dollar you'll ever earn is doing another MOD composite. In fact, last week I had to walk in a room, and it was 4 MOD composites on 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it's like, dude, I'm old. That's just work. I mean, there's no shortcuts there. So I would rather. I mean. So what? Why do you think? Why do you think you have basically half the overhead of the average general dentist office, which is 65%?
I wish that I could take all the credit, but I can't. First off, I have a great partner in my dental practice that we share a lot of the business responsibilities in the practice. Having another partner in the practice allows us a little bit more time to kind of dive into expenses. And, opposites attract, right? My partner is very
Are you talking about
grounded. I am.
Okay.
So, yeah, he's the great voice of reason, and it's amazing because I have these, hey, let's do this. Well, let's look at our expenses. Can we afford it? We have a great method of, we don't pay for anything we can't write a check for. But what we do through our processes is we're constantly reinvestigating and reopening our expenses, taking a look at, lab expenses. We added a CEREC. Okay, are we using the right blocks? What are we using for impression material? We're constantly renegotiating rates on things. We don't like to sign contracts because contracts just open you up to added expenses. It's a never-ending battle, but it's one of the things, like when we bought our practice, it was a great practice, great patients, well-run, just a great practice, but it was dated, and we knew that we wanted to bring it up to speed. But we did it in chunks. We took small bites. We digitized. We added, it was a paper chart office. So we added computers the first year. We added big screens in the operatories to present treatment. And then the next year we did a office renovation. And then the year after that, we invested in a CEREC. And then, it's just kind of this and then this and then this. But But a lot of times what I feel a lot of new practice owners and a lot of startups run into is they feel they have the excitement and they want the newest, the nicest, the best equipment, and they tend to get taken advantage of through salespeople that are just not necessarily pushy, but make it seem, yeah, you need this. Yeah, you need that brand new cone beam. Yes, you need a CEREC. Well, does it really make sense, at that point in time? We're doing 50 to 60 units of fixed a month. So I think a CEREC makes sense. If we were doing 5 to 6 units a month, absolutely doesn't make sense. So it's just kind of taking that common sense approach, but it's really nice to have somebody to bounce ideas off of, so that way you see it from a different angle as well.
Wow, that is amazing. What is the average dentist paying on merchant fees, and then what are they after they sign up for you? I mean, like Geico always says, you save about 15%, and I believe them because it was told to me by a green frog. But what are you seeing?
Well, first of all, I think I need a mascot to say this. So if you can help me come up with a good mascot, that'd be great. But like I said, the average, I would say the average dental office is paying between 2.4 and 2.6%, if we average everybody together. And for 2018, 95% of our clients were processing between 1.8 to 2.1% effective rate. So that means all in with all fees and everything.
So when they called you, they're averaging 2.4 to 2.6, and then and then when they get with you, it turns into what rate?
As a good dentist, I always like to under-promise and over-deliver. So let's say 2.1%.
So okay, so she's in dental school and she's saying, what's really the difference between 2.1 and 3.2? I mean, what make that more real to her? What does that actually mean? I mean, in a dental office.
Sure. So let's do a quick calculation. And I like to do this for our dental offices. So let's say that let's say the average is $25,000 a month in credit cards. I think that's a good average for an established practice. Okay. So if we're looking at $25,000 a month, and let's say they're at 3%, for that month, they're paying $750 in merchant services fees. Multiply that by 12 months, and you're looking at $9,000.
Wow.
With us, for $25,000, let's say that they're at our higher end of 2.1%, you're looking at $525 a month. Multiply that by 12 months, you're looking at $6,300. So you're looking at a savings of nearly $3,000 on a year. And when people look at that, when you look at that on a monthly basis, it's like, oh, that's only like $150 a month. That's not that much. But if I say, okay, well, I'm going to hand you a check at the end of the year for $3,000 just to switch to me. That's all you need to do, and I'm going to give you a check for $3,000. And I go, that pays for your staff Christmas bonuses. Oh. You average that over 5 years, that's 15 grand. You could buy a new piece of equipment, new sterilizer. And it's just, but that's the whole rub with overhead. The small percentage changes really add up over time. And what I always tell offices is it's not about raising the ceiling. You can only produce so much. Just like you said, with your back-to-back MODs, you're going to kill yourself. You can only do so much dentistry before you hit your ceiling. The only way to give you more headroom is to lower the floor. You got to lower that floor as much as possible, and that's a constant battle. And it is. That's the business ownership that we didn't learn in dental school. Dental school was great to teach clinical skills and an ethical way of practicing dentistry. But I for one don't believe that it's dental school's responsibility to make you a good business owner. That's on you. That's what separates successful businesses from poorly run businesses. And if you run your business successfully, if you run the business side of dentistry successfully, it frees you up to do the dentistry that you want to do, to take the courses that you want to take, and to become an excellent dentist. That's the beauty of it. If you can just run it efficiently, it frees you up to become a better dentist.
I've always seen it in dentists in their personal lives and their business lives. And like a lot of people, it's not what you earn, it's what you burn. They just have massive spending problems. And you know which employees they come in are because they're always coming in stressed out and they want to raise. And they're always talking about more money, more money, more money because it's never dawned on them that they live beyond their means. And when you go into a dental office and everybody's in the sales mind, like sales, market, advertise, let's do a flyer, let's redo everybody's in a sales. Their overhead's high, their stress is high. And the best marriages are when you got two people who are savers, who live below their means, and then they retire at 55, and they're all set. And I love dentists. In fact, my four boys say the greatest thing about dentistry is they think all of Dad's friends that are dentists they just said they're just so cool. They've always said since they were 10 years old, damn, dentists are really cool. And I said, I know, they got 8 years of college, they're readers, they don't really read fiction, they read history and business. They're just smart people. But the downside of the dentist that when you choose a profession to help people live healthier lives and do surgery all day long with your hands, they're not really good negotiators, and they don't ever, the dental the Patterson rep will come in and bring him donuts and say, "Oh my God, Zach, you look so good today." Well, and they just, it's not in their nature to haggle. And you see it also on vacations. Have you ever been to a cruise with a bunch of dentists and they never haggle for a price? I mean, they'll be in some underdeveloped world. The first price they'll pay and they'll tip. I mean, it's just really not the culture to haggle. It is in several countries. Haggling is most of the fun of shopping. I mean, it's like they don't even want this. They just want to argue with you for 10 minutes and get it for half of what you started. So how do you take this loving, caring, shy, introvert, physicist, engineer, dentist and teach him to start haggling and start questioning how much he's paying for impression material from the Patterson rep or the merchant fees? Or how do you change that mindset?
I don't know if I'm the best person to ask because I've never been that introvert. I've always, haggling is a sport to me.
That's why you have 39% overhead.
And it's I think it's more of a confidence issue, and this is purely my kind of observances. It's because a lot of people do get into. There's two types of dentists, I feel. There are those that have the mindset of, I'm getting in this purely to help people, and they are the kind-hearted individuals that just they want to help. And then there's the other. And that is great. And then there's another subset that look at dentistry as a means to an end, and they see, hey, I want this type of lifestyle. I want to earn this amount of money and be able to retire at this age, and that's great too. What I find is that the best dentists that I've encountered, the people that I like to surround myself with, are a mixture of both. That have that kind, serving heart, but also have the kind of killer instinct when it comes to business. I don't know that it is something that can be taught, but it's something that can be learned exactly with what you're doing. I mean, I love podcasts because it just allows our world to get that much smaller, because you can hear about other people's experiences and you can glean little pearls of wisdom from this podcast or from this podcast. Like I was listening to which one was that? Yeah, I think it might have been the one, your most recent one with Jonathan Cook. Yeah, it was with the multiple practice mentality and how he learned from his first partnership and the thought of like bringing multiple practices in under one roof. I'm sitting here thinking, why the hell haven't I thought of this? Like, why am I not trying to do this? Or, and you just kind of, it allows you to see other people's successes and learn from them and try to incorporate that into your life. And, and that's like one of the most fun things about this for me is just interacting with the young dentist or the new business owner, because I'm not that far removed from it. I'm about 6 years removed from new ownership. And the first 6 months were a lot of sleepless nights, a little bit too much bourbon, and just a lot of stress. And to be able to like relate to these dentists and be like, hey, it's going to be okay. Have you looked at this? Who are you using for this? Because I can pass on the knowledge that I've learned, and it might not be the right knowledge for everyone's circumstance, but it at least gives them somebody to sound off on, or a sounding board, and gives them something else to look at, so that maybe they're not going with the first person they look at kind of thing, and allows them to protect it. And it's just, I've always felt that dental school graduates competition a little bit. I don't like that mentality. I think that there's plenty of dentistry to go around, and we can all be successful and just live fulfilling lives in our profession if we just cooperate with each other and don't have that competitive nature with each other. But I'm just trying to have fun with this. It's a really enjoyable process, and I really enjoy helping people. But it's funny. I'll share another story. There was an individual last year that I had a conversation with, where I kind of showed her what our pricing structure looked like compared to our current one, and she was really getting hammered. We could save her over $1,000 a month, and she literally stopped the conversation and just said, I'm sorry, but I just can't hear this right now. And she said, I just can't deal with this. I can't believe that this is happening. I have to let you go. And I never heard from her again. And it's almost like, she wanted to see, but she just wanted to be told that she was getting a good deal. And then when I kind of pulled the wool back off of her eyes, it's not something she wanted to face, she wasn't really getting the best deal that she could, So you're going to have those, but the more people we expose to this and say, hey, this is what a fair pricing structure is, the more competitive it's going to make the entire market, the more honest it's going to keep other companies, or people are just going to start leaving them. And at the end of the day, if we can provide a better product and take that stress off your hands, and you can do better dentistry, it's a win-win for everybody, and it's a win for the patients.
But you're talking about how much money you can save them per month, and over 12 months, how much is a year. They have no idea how much they're being embezzled from. I mean, if
Right.
they don't have and I'll tell you what, it really hurts. I mean, I have seen dentists cry real tears in my house because the lady doing it was the godmother of their child. She was at the baptism. She's been there for 15 years. And some of these people, when they find out it's been going on for years, it's $200,000 or $300,000. And the emotional pain, believe it or not, is worse than the financial pain. I mean, they just feel so betrayed, Yep. The online report, they just don't realize how many digital ways. Like, how many digital ways can you think of to embezzle from an office? If you were working in a dental office, how many ways could you steal my money?
At least 5.
Yeah. And the dentist doesn't check any of those. And right, another thing, right. I've been helping dentists is one of the things I'm starting to believe is, you can't make me an NBA player. I mean, I'm too old. I'm 56. I'm too short. I don't think there's any 5'7" Irish people in the NBA. But I always tell dentists, look in your family. Like, you got a sister-in-law who's a bookkeeper at an accounting firm. You got, why can't you find someone that you trust to come in and help you do these things that you just don't like to do? I mean, some people naturally, like you called it a killer instinct, have that. But if you don't have, and a lot of them have stay-at-home spouses, and they say divorce, there's three, it's a third. It's money, sex, and substance abuse. I think a lot of spouses are off on the spending because they're not involved in their spouses owning the dental office, and they hear things like, well, how much you charge for a crown? And the doctors say $1,000, but they don't know that they did it through insurance and they only got $650. They don't understand there's 2/3 overhead, and they think their spouse makes a lot more money. And then the dentist is embarrassed. He doesn't want his spouse to know how little he makes, which is completely wrong, because now she's spending more because she thinks you have more. But I mean, if you don't have the insight to look over something like accounting and embezzling, look around your family. Somebody could help you, because again, it's happening in half the dental offices.
You say that though, but a lot of times the embezzlement's coming from those closest to you. You bring up the spouse. Like, I am extremely fortunate to have a spouse who's also a dentist. and she is very supportive. She's the only reason that I can practice dentistry and operate Apex Payment Solutions. She's just, the rock that we have in the house, and she gets it. A very savvy, business-minded individual, but a lot of times those spouses, exactly like you were saying, I actually remember I saw you speak at a Paragon meeting in Columbus, Ohio in 2012, and you were talking about the spouse that's the office manager that's probably just goes home and eats bonbons, and you probably didn't even notice this, but a woman stood up like she was going to fight you, and her husband grabbed her shoulder and sat her back down. And it's like, you got to understand, like, you didn't mean that. You were just, making an anecdotal joke, and you have to have the self-awareness to be able to let that roll off your shoulders, right? But the same thing comes into play when it comes into bookkeeping, because let's say you hire that cousin who, kids, she's a great girl. She's graduated, given her first job. She looks at all this money coming into the dental practice and says, well, why does he deserve all of this? I can keep a little bit of that. It won't matter in the end. At the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that it rests firmly on our shoulders. If we want it done right, yes, we have to set up procedural procedures and standards to allow things to operate in the office, but at the end of the day, the buck stops here. That's why I like our online platform, because at the end of the day, I can log in from home. It's all cloud-based. I can log in from my office. I just go back and I look at what's going on in that day-to-day transaction, so that way I know that all my T's are crossed and my I's are dotted, and I can go to sleep knowing that it hasn't happened on the credit card end. Now, you have to keep track of things like in your books, where are your write-offs going, things like that. But it's eliminating one piece of the puzzle so you can focus on other things.
I usually refer to the doctor's wife as named Muffy. That makes the hair on their neck stand up even firmer and faster when I refer to her as Muffy. I want to switch gears completely because of another issue. I always sit here trying to guess what the questions are asking, and I know in dental school they're thinking, well, forget about embezzlement. They're afraid of hackers. I mean, hackers are getting into the biggest banks and corporations in the world. When they, so talk about hacking and a lot of that's even a HIPAA violation. I mean, can you imagine getting hacked? And then your friendly government says, oh, by the way, you got hacked, and that's a HIPAA violation. So here's another fee on top of that. So talk about HIPAA and hacking.
So when it comes strictly to credit card processing, HIPAA doesn't get involved. But where it gets tricky or gets the water gets muddy is if you're storing credit card data on your servers or in your practice management software. So the way that hacking can occur in a credit card merchant services avenue, let's say, is anywhere that your payment portal is, whether it's in office through the physical terminal hardwired to the internet, through your payment portal on your website, or through your practice management system if you are storing credit card data. That's one of the areas that we have addressed with the platform. So everything we have is cloud-based and encrypted. It's also insured for up to $100,000 per incident. But all the payment plans that you create for your office are all stored as an encrypted token on our server. When a patient goes to your website to pay through the Pay It Now tab, they're redirected to a hosted payment page that's hosted on our server. So you have no risk or liability of the online transaction. You have no risk or liability for storing credit card data on your practice management system in your server. We offer the highest security portals out there. We use the Clover system of in-office payment terminals. And we have PCI compliance, which is a whole nother bag of worms that a lot of people don't understand. What's this PCI compliance fee? What does that do? Why are you charging me this fee? And what they don't realize is that it's actually a government mandated program to help protect you, the merchant, from us, the merchant services provider, because you have scans run once a month that test your firewall, test for any openings for hackers to get in. And all of that is done with our platform to try and protect you, the dentist, from these threats. I mean, it's a real threat. It is a real concern. You see practices all the time who, with ransomware, that aren't doing their daily backups, and to think about that, but then also think about I was storing Mrs. Jones' credit card on there. Now they now have Mrs. Jones' credit card information, and oh no, they just had a $10,000 plane ticket bought on her card, and oh crud, I'm liable for that because it was on my system. So it's a lot of things people don't even think about that the security of our platform helps to eliminate, so you don't have to think about them.
What % of dentists do you think are storing credit card information in their practice management software?
I would say 50% are either storing it in their software or on a Rolodex on their front desk. I kid you not, I've seen it.
Yeah, and what do you think of a dentist storing credit card information in their Dentrix, EagleSoft, SoftDent, Open Dental? What do you think of that?
I mean, you're just opening yourself up for risk and liability. Like, why would you do that? Like, especially if you need to have a merchant services company that takes that risk for you. Like that's one of the whole reasons why we even exist, is we take the risk and liability of the transaction off of the dental office. So
I always tell dentists, shoot me an email, howard@dentaltown.com. And if you want certain topics or questions, or leave a comment in the YouTube. By the way, our YouTube channel just passed 10,000, but I've been asked this question several times, but I'm going to throw it at you because only you could be close enough to it. So you're talking about encrypting credit card data. Some dentists are asking about there's this new dental DentaCoin. It's a Bitcoin for the dental industry, and sometimes they have legitimate questions. They say, well, wouldn't the blockchain method be better than encryption? And so then my thoughts to you is, what do you think about blockchain, Bitcoin, and DentaCoin? And they're specifically asking a lot about DentaCoin. And I know that's not fair to throw at you, but I don't know what other guest I could have to ask them a blockchain question. I bet you've thought about it.
I'll preface this with, there's been a lot of discussion, especially because in the credit card world, you're looking at transactions and currency, and Bitcoin and blockchain, they're a new form of currency. My expertise does not lie in this. My concern with using something like DentaCoin is you're a little bit, I might be misspeaking, but based off of my knowledge of Bitcoin, let's just say DentaCoin is valued at $1,000 one day, and you accept that for your payment of your crown, and then the next day it tanks down to 600. Then you just basically did a PPO fee for your crown. And so there's not the stability of the blockchain, in my opinion. But again, I'm no expert in this. So sorry for not being able to answer that specifically. So if someone, how involved do they got to get if they just want to know, compare Apex Payment Solutions? If they go to apexpaymentsolutions.com, what do they have to do for you to analyze? Because they probably don't even know. They probably don't even know what they're paying versus you. How could they see what it looks like on this terminal to see if their best friend Susie up at the front desk is refunding? I mean, my gosh, I hear it all the time. Someone will pay on their credit card, and they'll take the credit card and they'll send the payment right to their own personal credit card, and then they go into the practice management software and just write it off. And once you do it and don't get caught, and then instead of once a month, then it's once a week. I mean, I routinely will hear dentists that when they finally found out about the whole thing, it's $250,000, $400,000. And again, it's not even the money like it should be. They're just emotionally traumatized. So how would they get how do they contact you and find out what's going on? So the best way to contact us is either directly through the website, or you can reach out to me directly, ZAK@apexpaymentsolutions.com. I'm a big fan of transparency. What I like to do is I will lead with kind of our rates and our fees, kind of our pricing structure, because there's multiple ways that different merchant services companies will price their merchant services. So what I do is I lead with our pricing, and then then we run a cost comparison savings where we plug in that pricing structure and compare it to what you currently have. That way you already know what I'm charging as my rate, and you just want to see what it looks like into your practice. And then we can do online online tutorials of the online platform showing you the different features, because it's really robust. My favorite feature of the online platform is the automated monthly payment plan management software, because it's literally you set up the payment plan and your front office has to do nothing with it for the rest of the course of it. It runs automatically. It verifies the card automatically every month. It's completely customizable. You get notification that a payment was made. The patient gets an email notification that a payment was made. It runs seamlessly. In our office, we have almost completely eliminated care credit and third-party financing because we use this. And we're a heavy Invisalign practice, cosmetic cases. But when we present our treatment plans, we're presenting them with payment plans that are in-house with a 25% down payment, and then we spread the payments over the course of the Invisalign treatment. With the automated monthly payment plan management software, I'm also eliminating the need to bring in your office manager on a Friday when you guys aren't working so she can run those monthly payments, or track down Mrs. Smith to see if she can run a payment for her card, because it runs automatically. So you're not paying the man hours anymore. So there's additional savings on top of that people don't even think about. When it comes to overhead, you have to look at it from all different angles.
So if they go to, I'm trying to be technical, if they go to apexpaymentsolutions.com, what do they click? And where do they go for? There should be
an email address. It's either support@apexpaymentsolutions.com. There should be we were working on the web page last week. We're getting ready to roll out a new platform, and it might not be there. Hold on one second. Let me see.
I'm trying to see, I got to see terminals, gateways, POS. What is POS? That's what my 4 boys always call me. POS. Is that
point of sales?
I don't think that's what they mean.
No, probably.
Client support. Oh, application setup. Is that where they would go? Application setup, or
yes.
Okay, under client support, it says contact inquire. And then for sales questions, call our main office, 1-800-270-7164. But you gave away your email on the deal, so they can just send you an email. You said Zach, Z-A-K, at apexpaymentsolutions.com. And what is your close rate when someone calls you up for when my homies call you up? What percent of them do you actually convert?
If I get actual contact with them where I'm either doing a face-to-face or a voice call, we're at about 65%, just because I can really make that connection and they see, oh, you are a dentist, you understand the situation I'm in. So we have a pretty good close rate. But that's our whole point, why we've priced it as aggressively as we have, because my goal is once we capture a client, we don't lose them. We don't have any contracts. We have no early termination fees. We have no need to have shady business practices to keep our clients. We keep them with great customer service and low rates. That's one of the things I hate about dentistry, or I hate about, it's just contracts. I've got contracts for my medical waste disposal. I've got contracts for my website design. It's if you are really providing a great service at a great rate, do you need a contract? Do you need to force me to stay with you?
It's a huge red flag, and they fall for it all the time. The same thing with consultants, like a dental consultant. The best ones will say, okay, I'm $1,000 a month. And I've told them all, you can't be a dental consultant in dentistry for 5, 10, 20, 30 years and not have the dentist get that money back and more. And then other consultants come along and say, oh, well, you got to sign a 1-year contract. It's like, could you imagine going on a date with someone and she said, oh, to take me out on a date, I'm going to need a 1-year contract. It's crazy, but they do it all the time. And
one of the other things that we do, as value added pieces, is we provide all of our equipment at cost. There's no ongoing leases. There's no hidden fees. We lower the threshold that it takes for clients to transfer to us. We make it as easy as possible, and we try to do it as fairly as possible. A lot of different companies they'll promise you a low rate, but then they jack up your lease onto this $300 terminal that over the course of your contract costs you $7,000 or something like that. And it's just ridiculous. Why would you operate that way? It's really, at the end of the day, my business is my name. And I'm out there, I'm on the line with this. I put it out there. That's why I gave my personal email address. Anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out directly to me. Clients have problems with me, they've got my direct number. If they're not getting the support they need, They call me, and then they get the support they need because I'm on somebody to get back to them.
That is amazing. You're still a general dentist, a successful general dentist. What advice would you give? She graduated from school. She's going to graduate in a month. This is April, May. They're going to dump out another class of dentists. What advice would you give them? If you were given the graduation speech where they all want to go drink beer and they're all praying that you keep it really, really short, what would be your succinct advice to them?
It would be too late at that point because I think everybody's already made their decision. If I were to give a speech to a third year dental student, I would say 100% of the time, enroll in an AEGD. You have to have a good clinical foundation to your dentistry before you can focus on anything else, because you have to be confident in your skills before you can confidently present them to patients. But then after that, it's getting CE. It's just becoming confident in who you are as a dentist, getting confident in your clinical skills, because we should never have to sell dentistry. And a lot of people, like you said, when you have a high overhead, or if you're an associate in a DSO and you've got these production goals, or you've got a mortgage payment you've got to make, it becomes more about selling something, and patients don't respond well to that. Like I've heard you say this multiple times. Live within your means or under your means for a decade if you want to be successful for the rest of your life. Too often, people come out of dental school thinking, oh man, the world is my oyster. I'm just going to go kill it. And anymore, that's not the case. With high interest rates on loans, early repayments, we're competing with DSOs and these large corporate chains. You've got to kind of hunker down, pay down your debt, live within your means, and then you have the freedom to open the practice you want with all the bells and whistles that you want. But you can't come out of dental school thinking that you're just going to go walk right into that. It takes hard work and it takes time.
What I love about you and your message and all that is, so many times you're listening to these dentists and they're in Beverly Hills, they're in Key Biscayne, they're in downtown Manhattan, and no offense, but you're a Hoosier out in the middle of Indiana, and that's why. I know everyone talk about religion, sex, politics, violence, and now sports. I'm supposed to not talk about, but the reason Trump got elected is because no one likes to pay attention to that whole middle America. And I like to point to dentists like I would rather a dentist in Salina, Kansas, or Tulsa, Oklahoma, listen to someone from Indianapolis than Beverly Hills. Like when these guys are talking about how many movie stars they have, how many movie stars even live in your city?
Whoa. Like maybe one or two.
Maybe one or two. I love these cases where you're in middle America, you're not in lifestyles of the rich and famous, and you're crushing it. And a lot of people think that to be successful, you got to be where all the money is. For instance, when they come to Arizona, where does every dentist want to open up their practice when they come to Arizona? Scottsdale. And then you go down south to Eloy, they don't even have a dentist. You go to Florence, they need 2 more. You go to Maricopa, you could double the number of dentists there, and they'd still get 100 new patients a month. And then when that last 2008, when Lehman Brothers Day hit, and about 80 dental offices went bankrupt, half of them were in North Scottsdale trying to treat lifestyles of the rich and famous, and the other 4 were graduates who just opened up their practice thinking that the traditional direct mail was just going to crush it, and they opened up in the middle of a severe contraction. But I love the fact that that you're doing this in. By the way, did you figure out they did find out what a Hoosier was? Did you hear that?
No.
Yeah, I don't want to tell you where I heard it from because then you'll know how boring I am. It was on public radio, but actually a lady was writing a book on railroad stocks, and because the railroad was a big part of American history, and they were so good at it, they lay down like 5 miles a day. Well, when they're laying down 5 miles a day and they're going through your town, they're not going to sit there and say, oh, I'm Zach Allmand. Oh, I'm Howard Farran. You would just say who you worked for. You'd say, oh, I'm one of Hoosier's boys. And sure enough, a man named Hoosier laid a railroad completely across Indiana, and it would have been all the culture and custom to not introduce yourself as Zach Allmand, but to introduce yourself as I'm one of Hoosier's boys. And
well, that makes sense. We are the crossroads of America, so there's a lot of railroads going in and out of town. So
well, you were looking for a. You said you need a mascot like Gecko. You ought to have. You ought to make a Hoosier, Hoosier, because it's just keeping it real. And since I don't know why I did mention the Trump won the Middle America no one pays attention to. A lot of people are saying your mayor of Indiana could be the next president. Do you? And I got to go on the record. It was Fred Joyle who was the first person to tell me that Obama was going to be the next president. And when he said that, almost no one had even heard of him, of my friends. So are you going to go on the record? Can you make what is your prediction? Because you have a very famous mayor who's put his hat in the race.
I'm going to recuse myself from this because I don't want to offend any potential clients one direction or the other. I will say we've got some pretty smart people in Indiana. One of my big, not an idol, but I think Mitch Daniels is doing great things at Purdue. I don't know if you've seen this, but they've been on a tuition freeze for, I believe, 5 years after he took over in Purdue, and he's just running that program efficiently and just keeping it real for the Midwest with all the costs of education increasing. He's just running it efficiently, keeping their overhead low, and allowing more Hoosiers to afford college. So, I was a little disappointed that he never threw his hat into the ring. But
and is Purdue downtown? Are you close to Purdue?
No, Purdue's about an hour north. It's in Lafayette, Indiana.
Yeah.
It's about an hour north on 65, and IU is about an hour and a half south of Indianapolis. So it's
about halfway to Chicago from Indianapolis?
Yeah.
About halfway?
About.
Well, we did an hour. I can't believe, Zach, you were so fun to talk to. Is there anything that you wish I would have asked that I was too dumb to ask?
No, but I do want to leave with this. I just want to say, thank you, because there's another thing. I love coming to hear you talk, but one of the things that you said has really kind of influenced how I'm going to raise my kids. And it was a story about how your boys, whenever they wanted something, you would make them read the book or read the biography, the autobiography of the founder, and write a concise book report before they could buy it. And it's just so smart. It's like you've got to understand the product that you're buying before you go out and buy it. And it's a great practice. So my kids are 9, 7, and 2. So the 2-year-old just started reading Decision Points. So, we'll give him a couple years, but we'll get there.
I can't believe you mentioned that because my boys, Zach's my baby. He just turned 24 on the day before Easter. But it was amazing because they wanted a Honda. So I said, well, who is Honda? I mean, who's this Honda? He goes, Dad, it's a motorcycle. It's not a person. I said, really? Well, who made it? Did aliens drop it on Earth? I'm pretty sure there's a man named Honda. And when they were reading that story, Mr. Honda was what a character. And the one part of the story that I never forget is all my heroes lived at work. Like Walt Disney lived above the fire department in Disneyland. He lived there. My favorite banker, Jamie Dimon, who I've had lunch with 3 times, because he lives in the building and the same at the bank. Same thing. His idol was Steve. I forgot his name. The guy with Citigroup, Steve something Wyand or something like that. He lived there too. But it's just amazing. Like Mr. Honda, he lived at the place, and one night. This is an embarrassing story for him, but I guess he was sleeping in his birthday suit, and whenever the line shut, the bells would ring in his studio, and he ran down to the floor completely naked and re-engineered to find out what the hang-up was. These guys were obsessed. And Yamaha was another one. One of the boys was a rebel, and we went to Yamaha, and it blew his mind because every founder CEO owned, that one product. And here was Mr. Yamaha. He had 2, Japan, number 1 selling motorcycle is Yamaha. Well, what's the number 1 selling piano? Yamaha. He had two completely different products, and everybody told him, you don't understand. You just got to do one thing really, really well. You can't have two businesses. And when everybody says, well, you can't have two businesses, I'm like, really? Yamaha doesn't exist? I'm pretty sure any concert you go to, the keyboard is a Yamaha. And so these autobiographies, I mean, all my most famous heroes they're all dead, and they all wrote an autobiography. And then if you want to get them focused on a stock, well, don't buy them stock in some company they can't relate to. Buy them a share of Disney. If they want a Yamaha, buy them a share of Yamaha. And they would look at these stocks, and they were all things that they were very, very interested in. And then you buy them one share, then by law, they have to mail them a 10Q quarterly report. They got them a 10K annual report. I cannot tell you, probably 80% of the graduating dental school class could not tell you the difference between a statement of income, a balance sheet, and a statement of cash flow. And if they were reading 10Ks from their favorite companies, Disney, Yamaha, whatever, they would have read all that. I remember one time my dad, I wanted something, and he gave me two of them. He gave me the statement of income and the balance sheet, and he told me until I took the numbers from there, he said, you can get to the statement of cash flow, and call me when you want to say, and I couldn't figure it out. So you know what he did to me? He drove me to his accountant, Carol's accounting service. I'll never forget it. He drove me to Carol and said, Carol, will you help Howie? He's having the hardest time with these balance sheets and all this stuff. And she was this motherly, lovely lady. And I mean, she taught me accounting when I was 10, only because my dad thought that was more important than just going out on the park and throwing baseballs. You know what I mean? I mean, he was trying to, he would always say to me, he says, I would throw you baseballs in the park if I thought you could ever earn a living doing it. But I'm pretty sure you're never going to play for the Royals. I remember him telling me that. And, hey, thanks for all that you do. Thanks for all the posts you made on Dental Town. I think as a leader, I'm trying to be a leader in dentistry, and you don't need a leader to tell them to learn more about bone grafting and Invisalign. I mean, they just love that stuff. So I'm trying to take their little nose who wants to learn about Invisalign and bone grafting and which implant is the best, and point it over here in these insanely foreign things like credit card payment solutions. And they just naturally don't want to go there. And thank you for coming on the show, Zach, and giving them some really good reasons of why they need to be better business people. And I hope a lot of people email you, Zach, Z-A-K. By the way, my youngest son, Zach, I named after Zach Allmand. I don't know if I ever told you that, Zach, but I spelled it slightly different. I spelled it Z-A-C-H. But Zach at apexpaymentsolutions.com. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Howard, it's been an honor. Thank you very much.